Welcome back to Fun Size Adventures, everyone. I'm Jeff Smith, and today we're going to talk about different techniques we use for building trails through the woods in our own backyard so that you can do the same thing. Check it out. So hey, if this is your first adventure with us, Fun Size Adventures is our family vlog all about getting our kids outside and exploring, whether it be out in the wilderness or in our own backyard. And that's exactly what we're going to do today. So we live here in the woods of Maine, and we have about 2.5 acres, kind of divided into 3 main sections. That side you have the hillside, which is bigger trees, not much undergrowth, and it's really easy for making trails. That's where our mountain bike trails are. We made a couple videos ago. If you want to check that out, click this link up here in the corner. Below that is the backyard, which is a lawn, gardens, typical backyard. You go downhill a little bit further and you come into this section, which is basically a swamp. It's really wet in the spring and it's overgrown. As it's really moist, it's overgrown with these giant ferns that are taller than my kids, and it's kind of intraversable. I said 3 sections, I guess it's actually 4 sections. Then back beyond the swamp, we go back into some more woods, which definitely more path friendly once we can get back there. Down here, it's been a little bit of a challenge, and we wanted to find our way through the swamp so that the kids, especially our smaller kids like Eli, could get back through without having to get a bunch of bugs on them and get all wet and disgusting. So coming out of the backyard, this is our first section of trail. To build this section, we basically built up the ground by finding some dead logs on the ground, kind of laid them a couple feet apart, and then basically filled them with dirt that we were digging from a spot we were digging out on the other side of the yard to try to build it up. That worked pretty good, but it got really muddy. So then it worked out that we came into a bunch of sawdust from cutting up a bunch of firewood, and we've sprinkled that on the top, and that seems to have really helped keep it dry and a little bit more traversable, and also keeps the weeds down from growing up through the sawdust. Are you all right? So this section, back in the swamp here, we have a bunch of like standing dead pine trees that we took, and we the ones that are a little bit too rotty for us to use for firewood. We took the chainsaw, we cut them down the center to cut them in half, and then we cut some small sections that are about 2 feet long and kind of nailed them together to make this boardwalk, which works pretty good. It's not going to last forever because, like I said, these are basically logs that were too rotty to burn, but I think the nails only cost like 10 cents each, so each of these sections that's about 4 or 5 feet long only cost about 40 cents. So if they last a few years, that will be fine with me, and by that point maybe we can invest in some like pressure treated 2x6s or something to kind of replace them with. Here's where we cross through these trees into the beginning of our last section, which we're starting to work on. We kind of got things laid out. We've got the pieces all set up. We've got our pieces laying down and then our sawn in half ones. But when I went back to Lowe's to buy more of those nails, they were all out of them. So I had to get some screws, which are a little bit shorter. So I'm gonna have to like countersink them so that they'll go through and far enough to dig into the bottom piece enough. But I'll show you how I do that in a second. We're gonna go back to that big pine tree, and then there's one more section. We're probably gonna have to do this again to get beyond that pine tree. Then we come to an old logging road, which is fairly clear, and that part of the trail will be super easy to make. But yeah, let's show you how we do this.
Dad's doing something crazy. I don't know what he's doing.
So we've got our supplies that we need.
And I'm doing it.
Yeah, that's gonna take a while. We've got our drill, we've got some washers, these are the longest screws that I could find. They're 4 inches long. Got our drill bit, and here's what we're gonna do. So what we're gonna do first is we're gonna drill pilot holes for the screws to go through here. And then how these screws are only 4 inches long, and the nails we used over there were like 6 inches long. This is not gonna go super far into that bottom one, so we wanna countersink them a little bit just to give it a little bit extra space to get a little bit more bite. You wanna make sure your bottom pieces that you're on are kind of stable so that they don't roll. One thing that I found out is to kind of offset them so that they're kind of angled out. If they're at different angles, that'll kind of help hold them steady. And see, these two are a little bit different heights, but if we twist them to the right angle, they kind of line up. So that's the way I've been doing it, is to kind of have somebody stand on it and kind of hold them steady and get them all lined up. And even if they're a little bit not flat, they're still a lot better than trying to walk through the uneven ground. Even if these only last a short amount of time, they cost almost nothing to make, so that's the benefit. Do you want to use the drill?
Yeah.
No. Always use safety and adult supervision when you're letting kids try power tools. And don't get distracted and keep an eye on them. Hey! And this might end quickly. So like I said, we're gonna put our washers on our screws. Get up on that bridge. Does it seem steady?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Well, a little steady.
A little wobbly. It's always gonna be a little bit wobbly. But yeah, like I said, we've got all these extra pieces, but I think we're gonna work on that later. We're gonna go and have lunch. The mosquitoes are finding out we're back here, so we're currently being their lunch. So I hope you learned a little bit about different techniques for building trails in your own backyard, and hopefully it inspires you to do the same. Maybe you don't have several acres of woods like we do here, but as you can see, we don't even have ideal conditions, whereas there's a swamp, and it's definitely harder than it needs to be. Even in the smallest of backyards, you can still find ways to have fun with your kids and get outside. I'm definitely thankful that we have these several acres that the kids can learn to explore and kind of give them kind of a long leash to go out into the woods in a safe manner without getting lost forever. Although some of the kids, that might not be the worst thing. No, just kidding. I think it's somebody's nap time. But hey guys, remember, the adventure does not stop here. It's now your turn to choose. Do you want to